Think your morning commute is rough? Your ancestors from just 1,000 years ago would laugh at what you consider hardship. Let's imagine you've been transported to a coastal Viking settlement circa 850 CE. Your survival clock starts now. You awaken before dawn in a smoke-filled longhouse on a straw-filled sack crawling with fleas and lice, already feasting on your skin. The temperature hovers just above freezing as the hearth fire died down hours ago. Your only climate control, layers of rough-spun wool that feels like sandpaper. That persistent itch is just the beginning of what could become infected sores without proper treatment. But here's the part no one saw coming. Your morning routine doesn't involve scrolling through social media. There's no bathroom to stumble into, no hot shower to wash away your grogginess. Instead, you'd venture outside in pre-dawn darkness to relieve yourself in a designated area that's uncomfortably close to living quarters. Toilet paper? Non-existent. Think moss, leaves, or smooth stones instead. And that minty fresh feeling would be replaced with scraping your teeth using a frayed twig, maybe with some abrasive ashes if you're fancy. Your mouth would still taste foul because, bacterially speaking, it probably is. Breakfast offers no comfort either, just a bowl of reheated barley gruel, perhaps with bits of intensely salty preserved fish. The water looks suspicious, teeming with microorganisms your pampered immune system has never met. One sip could mean dysentery within hours. Even the morning ale, safer than water, would taste sour and flat to your modern palate. By now your body is in revolt, caffeine withdrawal headaches pounding, stomach questioning your choices, joints aching from your medieval sleeping arrangement. But there's no calling in sick in Viking society. No paid time off. Unless you're physically incapacitated, you work. Morning labour won't involve emails or meetings, but back-breaking physical tasks. Chopping wood, hauling water, tending animals, or agricultural work that would leave your soft hands blistered before midday. And if you think that's bad, just wait. All this assumes your settlement isn't under attack. Vikings lived where violence wasn't a distant threat, but everyday reality. The morning calm could shatter instantly with approaching enemies, leaving seconds to react in a world where combat wasn't optional, but essential. Your knowledge of spreadsheets won't help you wield an axe against someone who's been training since childhood. In Viking times, being unprepared for violence wasn't just a disadvantage, it was a death sentence. You've made it to midday, your modern muscles screaming in protest from the morning's labour. Now comes what should be a relief, mealtime. But if you're anticipating a comforting lunch break, you're in for another brutal awakening. Viking sustenance was about survival, not satisfaction, and the distance between their food practices and your local bistro spans more than just centuries. The midday meal, if you're fortunate, consists of more of that morning gruel, though perhaps with additions that would make your modern stomach turn. Imagine biting into bread so coarse and gritty it wears down your teeth with every chew. The grain wasn't just minimally processed, it often contained particles of millstone. That strange tang, not artisanal sourdough culture, but the early stages of mold that couldn't be wasted in a society where starvation loomed every winter. The meat, when available, wouldn't be the neatly trimmed portions from your grocery store, but tough, stringy cuts from animals that lived hard lives, often preserved through smoking or brining to a saltiness that would make your blood pressure skyrocket. If you're squeamish about looking your dinner in the eye, Viking cuisine would be your personal nightmare. Nothing, absolutely nothing, goes to waste. Blood collected from slaughtered animals becomes the base for black pudding. Organs that modern Americans discard are prized delicacies. That stew bubbling in the pot might contain sheep's head, complete with eyes that are considered particularly nutritious. And let's not even discuss what passes for sausage casings. Your modern sensibilities about food would mark you as wasteful at best, possibly insulting to your hosts at worst. You're probably wondering how anyone could possibly stay properly nourished on such fare. The truth is, many didn't. Seasonal vitamin deficiencies were common, especially in winter and spring when fresh produce was non-existent. Scurvy, with its bleeding gums and reopening of old wounds, was a regular visitor to Viking communities before spring greens emerged. That slightly nauseating fermented fish you're being offered, it's not just a delicacy, it's survival, providing precious nutrients during the barren months when fresh food is impossible to find. Your reluctance to eat it might be the difference between life and death when winter stretches longer than expected. And then there's the constant uncertainty. Modern humans have forgotten what true food insecurity feels like. Your Viking hosts live with the knowledge that one bad harvest, one cattle disease, one lengthy storm preventing fishing vessels from launching could mean starvation for the entire community. The food storage areas aren't just conveniences, they're survival chambers, carefully managed and fiercely protected. That anxiety about food sufficiency permeates every aspect of Viking life, creating a relationship with sustenance entirely foreign to your supermarket psychology. In their world, the luxury of being a picky eater doesn't exist. Unless you're among the settlement's elite, portions are determined by your value to the community. That scrawny kid getting a larger share than you, he's the blacksmith's apprentice, essential to the community's survival. Your modern indignation about fairness in food distribution would be met with blank stares or outright hostility. In Viking society, your worth is measured in practical contribution, not abstract notions of equality. And if food becomes truly scarce, those deemed least valuable eat last, if at all. If you've managed to choke down enough unfamiliar food to keep moving, your survival clock continues ticking into the afternoon. But in Viking society, the greatest threat to your continued existence isn't the food or the working conditions. It's other humans. The popular image of Vikings as warriors isn't just historical stereotyping. It reflects a fundamental truth about their world where violence wasn't an aberration, but a constant companion. Let's be uncomfortably honest. You, the modern human, have probably never experienced true violence. Maybe you've seen a bar fight or witnessed a heated argument, but the visceral life or death combat that was commonplace in Viking society, that's as foreign to you as smartphones would be to them. From childhood, Vikings were conditioned not just to accept violence, but to excel at it. Boys as young as 12 trained with weapons daily, not as sport, but as essential life preparation. That teenager carrying an axe isn't playing at being an adult. He's already expected to defend the settlement if raiders appear on the horizon. And those raiders weren't rare occurrences, but a persistent reality. Coastal settlements lived in perpetual readiness for attack, not just from rival Viking groups, but from anyone with a boat and desperation or greed as motivation. The concept of peace as we understand it, the default state occasionally interrupted by conflict, would be reversed in Viking consciousness. Potential conflict was the default, with periods of relative calm as the welcome exception. Your modern instinct to flee from danger rather than toward it would mark you as a liability in a world where every able body was expected to grab a weapon when the alarm sounded. But you know what's worse than the external threats? The internal ones. That seemingly friendly Viking who shared his ale with you this morning. He's measuring your worth, your weakness, your potential usefulness. Disputes between community members weren't settled through passive-aggressive emails or HR interventions, but through direct confrontation, often escalating to holmgang, a form of regulated duel used to settle everything from property disputes to insults. Your modern conflict avoidance strategies would be interpreted as weakness, making you a target rather than keeping you safe. That's if you're a man. If you're a woman, different but equally brutal rules apply. While Viking women had more rights than many of their contemporaries in other societies, physical strength and willingness to use violence remained cultural currencies. Female Vikings needed to defend themselves and their property when men were away raiding, creating a society where even women possessed combat skills that would humble most modern men. Your inability to wield a shield or knife with confidence would make you vulnerable regardless of your gender. Even social gatherings contain potential death sentences for the unwary modern human. Those drinking horns being passed around the evening fire aren't filled with light beer, but potent mead or ale, consumed in quantities that would incapacitate the untrained modern liver. Yet maintaining awareness remains essential, because intoxication doesn't excuse you from the complex social rules governing honor and insult. One misinterpreted comment, one cultural faux pas, and you could find yourself facing a very sober Viking demanding satisfaction for an offense you didn't even realize you committed, and refusing such a challenge. That's not avoiding conflict. It's guaranteeing your status as a social outcast, denied the community protection that stands between survival and death. If you've survived the violence and managed not to fatally offend anyone, you're now facing the microscopic world of disease and infection that decimated pre-modern populations. Vikings lacked not just antibiotics, but the entire framework of germ theory that protects you daily. That small cut from afternoon chores. In your world, it's a minor inconvenience. In Viking Norway, it's potentially fatal. Without antibiotics, even tiny injuries frequently developed into life-threatening infections. The reddening skin around that cut isn't just inflammation. It's possibly the beginning of blood poisoning that can kill within days. Viking herbal treatments against serious infection were like fighting forest fires with water pistols. The sanitation situation is equally dire. Viking settlements had designated waste areas, but nothing approaching modern standards. Human and animal waste accumulated near living spaces, creating perfect breeding grounds for parasites and disease. Those stomach cramps might be from intestinal worms that would constitute a public health emergency today. Treatment? More suspicious ale while your body fights a battle it's never trained for. Despite stereotypes of filthy barbarians, Vikings actually valued cleanliness more than many European contemporaries. Cold comfort, considering what that meant. Your communal bath would involve sharing water with multiple family members, perhaps with herbs for scent rather than sanitization. And that throbbing toothache? Dental care consisted primarily of extraction without anesthesia, using tools more suited to a torture chamber. Healing fell to the community's wise women or men, whose treatments blended practical herbalism with rituals that would seem entirely superstitious today. Question this approach, and you're rejecting the cosmological framework ordering their world. By nightfall, new symptoms emerge from your Viking day. Smoke from the hearth has left your eyes irritated, your lungs burning with each breath. The unfamiliar bacterial environment has your stomach churning and skin breaking out in mysterious rashes. Your blistered hands already show signs of infection. In your time, each condition warrants medical attention. Here, they're simply baseline existence, unremarkable to anyone but you. As darkness falls on your first, possibly last day in Viking society, you confront perhaps the most relentless opponent, the Nordic environment itself. These people survived not because their environment was forgiving, but because they possessed generations of knowledge that you entirely lack. In Scandinavian winter, your situation would be immediately dire. Modern humans experience cold by choice and in controlled doses. Vikings experienced it as an existential threat requiring constant management. The evening temperature isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Your body, accustomed to central heating and technical fabrics, can't regulate temperature efficiently here. That uncontrollable shivering, it's the first stage of hypothermia. Your provided clothing, rough wool and animal skins, is drastically different from anything you've worn. The wool retains warmth even when wet, crucial in damp Nordic climate, but irritates skin accustomed to cotton. Those drafty seams aren't manufacturing defects, but the limits of hand stitching. Your constant fidgeting marks you as someone lacking the mental discipline to accept physical discomfort as default. Even in summer, you'd face different but equally challenging conditions. Extended northern daylight would disrupt your circadian rhythms, causing sleep deprivation. The sudden insect profusion would introduce pathogens your body has never encountered. Those picturesque landscapes, filled with hazards requiring experienced navigation. Your city-trained eyes would miss crucial environmental indicators that Viking children recognize instinctively. Summer also means brutal work schedules that your 40-hour workweek body isn't prepared for. Vikings worked until daylight or the task was exhausted, up to 16-hour days of continuous physical labor. Your concept of work-life balance would be incomprehensible in a society where survival required maximizing every productive moment. The resulting exhaustion would impact your cognitive function, making errors likely precisely when they could be fatal. As night falls, environmental challenges transform rather than diminish. The seemingly sturdy longhouse reveals its vulnerabilities. Wind finds every construction gap. The necessary smoke hole allows in precipitation. The fire creates heat zones, requiring knowledge of optimal sleeping positions you lack. And the darkness is complete in a way few modern humans ever experience, filled with sounds your urban-trained ears cannot properly interpret. As your first Viking day ends, you face perhaps the most subtle yet inescapable challenge, navigating a social structure operating on entirely foreign principles. Vikings didn't just live differently, they thought differently, valuing concepts that would bewilder modern sensibilities. Your life in a society that at least honors equality, theoretical social mobility, and individual rights would clash with Viking reality. Their world operated on a rigid hierarchy where worth came from birth, strength, and practical contribution, not education or credentials. Your degree, worthless. Your personal brand, meaningless. Your assets back home, non-existent. In one day, you've fallen from whatever status you held to the absolute bottom. A useless outsider with no family connections, no demonstrable skills, and no survival knowledge. The depth of this reset is profound. In Viking society, slaves were property, not people. Without demonstrating immediate value, you'd be somewhere between tolerated burden and potential thrall. That Viking who showed basic kindness? It might have been assessing your market value if you need to be sold to another settlement. Gender roles would further shock your sensibilities. While Viking women had more rights than many contemporaries, clear labor divisions existed. Men showing interest in female tasks faced ridicule. Women who couldn't efficiently manage household production were failing their core social function. Your awkward attempts at gender-appropriate activities would mark you as deficient, regardless of your sex. Even casual interactions are minefields. Viking communication valued directness over diplomacy, unlike your workplace politeness. Your constructive feedback would seem weak and evasive. Your respectful disagreement would read as confusion or cowardice, and humor to diffuse tension. Comedy doesn't translate across millennia, and your clever reference might be taken as a grave insult. Religious views present perhaps the most dangerous territory. Viking spirituality wasn't optional, but a fundamental framework explaining everything from weather to illness. Religious rituals weren't cultural activities, but essential functions ensuring divine favor. Your reluctance to participate wouldn't be respected as personal choice, but condemned as endangering the settlement's relationship with survival-controlling forces. By the time you return to your flea-infested pallet, your social isolation becomes clear. You lack not just physical skills, but the entire cultural framework for functioning in this society. The subtle cues and shared references you navigate effortlessly at home are replaced by equally complex but different ones everyone else understands instinctively. In a world where communal support isn't just socially desirable but essential for survival, being the perpetual outsider isn't just lonely, it's potentially fatal. The painful truth is this: you wouldn't last 24 hours in Viking times because survival then required an entirely different skill set than modern life has given you. From the moment you woke on that uncomfortable straw mattress to your final exhausted collapse at night's end, Every aspect of Viking existence would be testing capabilities you've never developed. Yet somehow, these fierce northerners not only survived, but thrived in conditions that would break most of us within a single day. What were their secrets? In our next video, we'll discover the forgotten survival tactics Vikings employed that weren't just clever, but essential adaptations forged through generations of harsh experience.